Do you want to know the word that keeps someone poor without them realizing it? It's not a mystical word. It's a common, everyday word, repeated in lines, in family conversations, in text messages. And it doesn't steal your money, it steals your identity. The word is maybe. As long as you keep saying maybe, you live in a state where nothing is firm, nothing is yours, nothing is inevitable. Maybe I'll succeed. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll prosper. Do you see? You're not describing the world, you're signing an agreement with indecision, and any life born of indecision ends up looking like bad luck, when in reality it was fidelity to the wrong command. Notice how maybe disguises itself as humility. The person thinks they're being realistic. They're not. They're being faithful to an old role, the role of someone waiting for permission from the world, the market, luck, circumstances, or someone else's mood. Maybe I'll invest when I have extra. Maybe I'll start when I know everything. Maybe I'll deserve it when I'm ready. Hear the music behind these phrases. I am not yet. I cannot yet. I do not yet have. And as long as this yet governs, you live like a guest in your own life, asking for authorization to exist with more space. The mind works like a stamp. The stamp doesn't argue with the paper, it just imprints. You can place the stamp of doubt, and life prints more reasons to doubt. You can place the stamp of scarcity, and life prints more justifications to save, shrink, and apologize. You can place the stamp of passivity, and life prints more delays, more laters, more "it wasn't the time." Maybe is that stamp. It seems light, but it weighs a ton because it keeps your center outside of you. Now, I didn't come here just to accuse you of one word. I came to give you a word that destroys maybe once and for all, because it doesn't argue with appearances. It decrees. It doesn't ask. It assumes. And this word, which takes you from 0 to billions using only an internal command, is already, not one day, not when it happens, not if it happens, already. The difference between those who live small and those who break any ceiling isn't intelligence, isn't charisma, isn't connections, isn't inheritance. It's the internal verb. It's the command you give yourself. When you say already, you change the position of your body internally. You step out of the audience and onto the stage. You stop asking for signs and become the sign. You're not talking about time, you're talking about state. Already isn't a calendar, it's a posture. It's the decision to live now from the identity that would have what you want. And external reality, which seems so solid, begins to rearrange itself around this new center, like iron filings around a magnet. You call it luck, coincidence, opportunity, but it's just the mirror obeying what you decided to be. So listen to the first principle like a clean blow. Remove maybe from your mouth, and most importantly, from your mind. Because the mind repeats what the mouth tolerates. You don't need to announce it to anyone. You just need to guard your internal language like someone guarding the door of a house. Every time maybe arises, interrupt it like you interrupt bad music. Replace maybe I'll succeed with I am entering that state now. Replace maybe I deserve it with I operate from dignity. Replace maybe I'll change with I am already changing through the way I think, feel, and act. It's a simple and relentless discipline. You cut the word, and with it, you cut the old role. Do a simple, brutal test. For an entire day, pay attention to how many times you use maybe as an anesthetic. You want to ask for a raise, but you say, maybe later. You want to start a project, but you say, maybe when I have time. You want to charge someone, but you say, maybe I'm bothering you. Notice what you're protecting. You're protecting the old feeling of being small. Maybe is the cloak that insecurity wears to look like politeness. And the price of this politeness is your life. Look at it symbolically. If your world is a mirror, maybe is like wiping the glass with a dirty cloth and then complaining that the image is blurry. Do you want clarity? Change the cloth, change the command. There are people who spend years asking the mirror for clarity, banging on the frame, changing the light bulb, changing the angle. The mirror doesn't need fixing, you need the command. If you want to turn this internal vigilance into daily practice without getting lost, use the link in the pinned comment. There you will find a simple method to align thought, emotion, and action like a tripod. Build a first-person mental movie and repeat it for a few minutes, and use a journal to write in the present tense as if taking possession. Take this as training, not theory. Now the next discipline arises immediately. Your visible reality doesn't deserve the right to vote on your destiny. It can offer opinions, shout, threaten, but not vote. This is the second principle. Stop negotiating with visible reality. Most people try to manifest wealth like trying to convince a doorman, "Please let me in." And the doorman is called circumstance. They show bank statements, show age, show resumes, show the past, show fear. And they think that's honesty. It's not. It's submission to an old state. If you truly want to change, you need to understand that circumstance is an echo. It repeats. It doesn't initiate. You initiate through the state you choose to inhabit. So when the bill arrives, when the price is frightening, when the bank notification appears, when someone doubts, when the scenario seems to close in, don't use it as an argument against your already. Use it as a test of fidelity, because that's when you know who's in charge. A new state isn't born on an easy day. It's born when the old world tries to pull you back and you don't go back. You look at the echo and don't engage with it. You change the sound at the source. Imagine a captain at sea. The sea may be rough, the sky may be overcast, the wind may howl, but the captain doesn't abandon the course because the wind is noisy. He adjusts the sails. The captain doesn't say, "Maybe we'll arrive." He says, "This is the course," and if someone on board asks, "But what if we don't make it?" the captain doesn't debate. He returns to the map and the helm. Your consciousness is that captain, and money for your world is just one of the possible routes. The mistake is treating money as something that comes from outside, as if it were a handout from the system. No, money is an effect. The state is the cause. Do you want a common example? A person enters a market with a state of scarcity. They already enter with tense shoulders. They already see prices as enemies. They already choose with fear. They already apologize for wanting. And when it's time to pay, they're already preparing for the pain. Another person enters with a state of command. They look at the price, but they don't bow. They choose with clarity. They decide what they need. They talk to themselves differently. I am someone who finds solutions. One leaves with bags and weight. The other leaves with bags and lightness. And the market didn't change. It was the state that entered. And then comes the third principle. And this separates children from creators. Assume the identity before seeing the result. Children say, "When I have it, I will be." Creators say, "Because I am, I will have." Life responds to the assumed identity, not the desired identity. Desire is a ticket. Identity is an address. You don't need to feel euphoria all day. You need to occupy the internal space of who you already are. How do you do that without fantasy? With normality. True wealth has a smell, the smell of normality. The poor person imagines wealth as a spectacle and therefore cannot sustain the state. They imagine an audience, fireworks, applause, and inside them arises the question, "Who am I for this?" The creator imagines wealth as routine, paying with ease, choosing without fear, investing calmly, refusing firmly, negotiating without trembling. The correct scene isn't the stage scene, it's the backstage scene. It's you sitting serenely, making decisions as someone who belongs. Bring this to your body. Yes, to your body. Because identity doesn't live in pretty thoughts. It lives in your nervous system. If internally you still live shrunken, any opportunity becomes a threat. So you train your body to inhabit the already. You walk slower. You speak more clearly. You decide without apologizing. You make a list and stick to it. You end conversations that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't pay you. You become the type of person who doesn't need to prove anything. And when this state settles in, external reality begins to treat you accordingly, because you started treating yourself that way first. I'll give you a short story, no romance. A man worked a simple job and repeated maybe as if it were a daily song. Maybe I'll change, maybe I'll learn, maybe I'll leave. One day, he decided to cut the word and install another, already. He didn't tell anyone. He just started acting like someone who already belongs to a higher level. He began studying 30 minutes a day with the seriousness of someone who is already a professional, not someone who tries. He started offering help and solutions at work as someone who is already valuable, not someone who asks for recognition. In a few months, people started seeking him out. In a year, he was in another position. He thought, the boss liked him. No, the mirror simply responded to the state he sustained when no one was watching. And here comes the fourth principle, and it's what makes already become tangible results. Align the three cables, because a divided mind generates a divided destiny. If you think about wealth but feel guilt, if you imagine abundance but act with scarcity, if you repeat strong phrases but treat yourself as unworthy, you create noise, and noise becomes delay. You need internal coherence. Think like a map, feel like an engine, act like a direction. It's not poetry, it's mechanics. And when these three are in sync, you stop being someone trying and become someone operating. I'll give you an image. A safe with three keys. One key is thought, another is emotion, another is action. You can have two in your hand, and still the door won't open. Most people call this bad luck. It's not bad luck, it's a missing key. If you want money to flow naturally, you need to think clearly, feel with authority, and act with congruence. Action here isn't agitation. It's a right step. It's responding to the invitations that appear. It's making the call. It's studying the skill. It's sending the proposal. It's asking for the right price. It's saying no to what diminishes you. It's saying yes to what expands you. Many people sabotage this alignment because they have a secret fantasy. If I just keep imagining, the world will change without me moving. That's laziness disguised as wisdom. True state doesn't avoid movement, it inspires movement. When you assume already, your body wants to act. You feel impelled. You don't get stuck on what's the perfect way. You start with the possible way. Movement generates vision, and vision generates more movement. And here I will give you simple engineering for you to observe yourself without lying. Think of three forces within you, like three legs of a tripod: thought, emotion, and action. If one leg fails, everything falls. Thought is the map. It defines the course. Emotion is the engine. It provides energy and truthfulness. Action is the steering wheel. It directs movement in the world. When these three are aligned, you stop emitting mixed signals. And when you emit mixed signals, you create the silent hell of wanting and not receiving. Not because life denies you, but because you contradict yourself internally. See how this works with money. You say you want abundance, but your thought continues to describe a scenario of lack. You say you want freedom, but your daily emotion is fear, guilt, resentment. You say you want to grow, but your action is invisibility. You don't study, you don't expose yourself, you don't offer, you don't negotiate, you don't ask, you don't deliver. Result? You become a radio with static. Even the opportunities that appear seem wrong because your state isn't ready to receive them. Adjust this from the inside out, and you will see the world change as if someone had changed the scenery. No one changed the scenery, you changed the command. And don't confuse alignment with perfection. Alignment is internal sincerity. It's you saying already and acting compatibly with already, even on a small scale. Sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's an updated resume. Sometimes it's selling something unused and using it as a seed. Sometimes it's studying at night when no one is applauding. The world doesn't reward intention, it responds to coherence. Coherence is internal language, feeling and real gesture walking in the same direction. Now, another detail that almost no one wants to hear. Wealth requires clarity. Those who live in maybe think of money as a fog. I want more. I want to improve. I want a good life. That's not a command. That's smoke. When you specify, your state gains form. You decide the number, the type of income, the deadline, the scenario, what changes in your routine, where you live, how you work. It's like adjusting the focus of a lens. The world was always there, but you couldn't see it. When the image becomes sharp, you stop getting distracted by anything and start recognizing doors that previously went unnoticed. And here comes a final seasoning to keep the state firm without anxiety: gratitude and detachment. Gratitude is not theater, it's a posture of abundance. It's recognizing what already exists and what is already coming to elevate your energy and prevent you from returning to the old squeeze. Detachment isn't giving up. It's letting go of the obsession with, I need it now, and maintaining certainty without torturing yourself with the clock. You do your part with dignity and let the echo rearrange itself, because anxiety is maybe trying to return in different clothes. And so that this doesn't just become a day's enthusiasm, here comes the fifth principle. Transform imagination into a daily ritual. small, repeated, inevitable. The problem for almost everyone isn't a lack of power, it's a lack of constancy. The mind believes what you repeat. And what do you repeat? Problems, fear, the past, complaints. Then you wonder why life repeats the same thing. Change the program. Make it a short habit, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. A mental movie where you are the protagonist, with emotion and details repeated regularly until it becomes natural. And don't do it as a spectator. Step into the first person. See your hands, see your name, hear the sound of the environment, feel the weight of the pen when you sign, the sound of the notification when a payment comes in, the texture of the steering wheel of the car you drive without anxiety. And then, when you open your eyes, don't rush back to the old identity. Carry the already into the day as if it were perfume, invisible but present, and then take a concrete action consistent with the scene. One action, small, but real, because that action seals the state. And write. Yes, write. Because writing in the present is a way of declaring internal possession without needing applause. It's like signing a contract with yourself. Today, I live freedom. Today, I am the type of person who receives with ease. Today, I operate from abundance. And describe it with sensations without rushing once or twice a week to reinforce the image and maintain focus. This isn't literature, it's state installation. Now, perhaps you will ask, what if I do all this and I don't feel anything? Great. That means you're leaving the theater. You don't need to feel fireworks, you need to feel truthfulness. In the beginning, the old state will seem more real because you've repeated it for years. Don't argue. Continue. It's like changing the smell of a house that's been closed for a long time. On the first day, you open the windows and the old air fights to stay. On the second day, it still tries. On the third, it weakens. On the seventh, you breathe differently. Repetition creates reality, always. And beware of a common trap, wanting to prove it to yourself. Those in a state of scarcity need immediate proof because they have no roots. They say already and look outside in 5 minutes. Did it change? If it hasn't changed, they retreat. That's maybe in disguise. The state of command does the opposite. It maintains. It sustains. It lets the echo catch up. It doesn't beg for confirmation. It behaves as confirmation. Here's another symbolic reading. Every time you give in to maybe, you are teaching your mind that doubt is boss. Every time you insist on already, you teach that you are boss. It's not about money yet. It's about authority. Money is just one of the ways that internal authority chooses to materialize. A commanded mind generates a commanded life. An indecisive mind generates a negotiated life. I'll make it even more precise. As long as you say maybe, you keep your life in draft. A draft doesn't get a signature. A draft doesn't get investment. A draft doesn't get respect. The world responds to what is definitive, and you need to be definitive within yourself. Definitive doesn't mean rigid. It means decided. You can adjust the route, but not the identity. You can change the plan, but not the internal ownership of the result. You can learn a new path, but not return to the old state. So, from today on, don't say maybe about your prosperity anymore. Don't say maybe I'll succeed. Don't say maybe I'll deserve it. Don't say maybe one day I'll leave. If this word escapes, treat it as an alarm. Stop and replace it. And install already as your base command. I already am. I already operate. I already live. I already receive. And let life, which is an obedient mirror, run to catch up with what you have decided to be. And listen to the conclusion as if it were a final decree. From now on, stop begging for external changes. Stop imploring for signs. Stop measuring your future by the market's mood, by someone's opinion, by the memory of the past. Do the opposite. Silently and with certainty, command that your reality obey the state you have assumed within yourself. Remove maybe like removing poison from a plate. Install already like placing a crown on your head, not to show off, but to remember the internal place from which you operate. And if you want to turn this into concrete practice without getting lost, go back to the pinned comment and get the material. It will give you a simple way to align thought, emotion, and action like a tripod. Create your mental movie and keep a journal in the present tense consistently to consolidate this new state and make the change visible. Now go. Don't argue with the shadow. Change the light. and let the world learn by the result that you no longer ask for permission. You decide, you assume, you already are. Man seeks doors to the invisible, but ignores that the greatest of all lies within himself. Since the beginning of time, sages have repeated in different languages and symbols the same truth. The kingdom of heaven is within you. And yet, most live as spiritual beggars, pleading for changes in the external world without ever realizing that the external world is merely a mirror of an internal state. The unconscious is this silent realm, the command center of existence, where every thought clothed in emotion becomes a creative command. Entering it is not a task for a select few enlightened individuals, but the natural right of every human being who awakens to their divine origin. You have been conditioned to believe that what is real is what can be touched, measured, or proven. But this is merely the shadow cast by something far greater. True power lies not in the hands, but in the mind. Not in physical effort, but in consciousness. Every image you hold within yourself is a living seed planted in the soil of the unconscious. And like every seed, it germinates in darkness before appearing in the light. The problem is that modern man fears inner silence, fears the void, and therefore distracts himself with 1,000 external voices, without realizing that by fleeing silence, he flees the very source of power. Entering your unconscious is turning inward until the world disappears. It is disengaging from the appearance of things and contemplating only what you desire as if it already exists. This is not an act of childish imagination, but an act of conscious creation. The unconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It reacts only to the vibration of sustained feeling. Therefore, what you feel as true, even if you deny it with words, will become fact. You can say, "I am rich," but if deep down you feel fear and scarcity, the unconscious will not hear your words. It will only hear the feeling of lack and reproduce it in the form of circumstances. The world is a collective hypnosis, and awakening means breaking free from it. It's not about fighting against appearances, but understanding that they have no life of their own. Everything that exists on the physical plane is a consequence, not a cause. The causes lie in states of consciousness. If you want to transform your life, don't start by changing the world. Change the state that generates it. The secret is not in doing, but in being. When you internally assume the desired state and feel it as real, the world obediently bows before your new self. This is the law, ancient as time itself. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And this is precisely what most have forgotten, that asking is feeling, that faith is not hope, but inner conviction, that true prayer is not a repetition of words, but the intimate acceptance that the desire has already been fulfilled. Therefore, in this teaching, I do not ask you to believe in something outside of yourself, but to recognize the power that already dwells within your own consciousness. Because when you discover how to enter your unconscious, you also discover that there is no distance between what you imagine and what you live. Everything you see out there is merely the echo of what you decided to feel as true within. The unconscious is the true silent creator of your reality. It does not think, argue, or choose between good and evil. It merely accepts absolutely everything that is felt as true. This is the first great revelation for anyone who wishes to transform their life. The unconscious does not respond to words, but to the emotions that sustain them. You can repeat, "I am prosperous" 1,000 times, but if deep down you feel fear, lack, or doubt, the unconscious will register only the feeling and transform it into form. It is like a living mirror that reflects without judgment the emotional content you carry within. Everything you experience in the visible world is, in truth, the faithful reflection of what your consciousness felt as real in the invisible. Therefore, to understand this law is to understand yourself. The unconscious is like a perfect servant, obedient to the master that is feeling. It does not distinguish between what you desire and what you fear. To it, everything intensely felt is a command. If you fear losing something, the unconscious sees this fear as an instruction and creates circumstances that confirm that loss. If you feel rejected, the world around you begins to act in a way that validates this feeling. That is why transformation begins within, because it is impossible to alter effects while maintaining the same cause. The world is the mirror, and you are the image reflected in it. The secret is to feel the desire as already realized. Not as something distant, but as an inner presence so real that no doubt can survive. When you feel something with conviction, this emotion crosses the conscious mind and penetrates the deep layers of the unconscious, where all realities are formed. From that moment, invisible forces begin to move in your favor, arranging encounters, ideas, and events that will make the invisible become visible. You do not need to know how this will happen, because the how belongs to the creative power that acts through you. Your role is merely to feel with firmness and constancy what you desire as being now. Entering the unconscious is an art. It requires silence, imagination, and surrender. You cannot force it, only allow the correct emotion to permeate it. It is in a state of relaxation between sleep and wakefulness that access becomes purest, because at this point the conscious mind weakens and the language of feeling speaks directly to the creative power. Learn then to fall asleep feeling already in possession of what you seek. Feel the relief of one who has already succeeded, the gratitude of one who already lives the result. This emotion is the key that opens the doors to the invisible. The unconscious, true to its role, will transform this feeling into concrete reality. And when the world changes before your eyes, you will understand that nothing came from outside. Everything was the response from within. Because the unconscious always obeys, and what it accepts as true, sooner or later, becomes your life. Imagination is the portal through which the invisible becomes visible. Nothing that exists in the physical world emerged without first having been imagined. Before a house was built, someone envisioned it in thought. Before a melody was played, someone heard it within themselves. Man's error lies in imagining unconsciously, allowing fear, doubt, and despair to paint the picture of his reality. But when imagination is directed with intention and feeling, it becomes the most powerful instrument in the universe. What you imagine with emotion and conviction is what will inevitably become your experience. Most people imagine distractedly, believing that thinking about something is merely daydreaming, but there is a profound difference between fantasizing and consciously creating. To fantasize is to observe a possibility. To create is to live it internally. When you imagine something and feel yourself within the scene, when you touch, hear, and see as if it were real, you shift your consciousness to that state. And consciousness is the only reality. The unconscious does not know that this is just imagination. It accepts the internal experience as fact and begins to reorganize the external world to confirm what you have lived internally. Every manifestation begins with an image sustained in the mind and nourished by the corresponding feeling. The image is the form. The feeling is the life that animates it. That is why many affirm something but see no result, because the image they sustain and the feeling they emit are not in harmony. You can visualize wealth, but if you feel lack, you are creating more absence. You can imagine a perfect relationship, but if you feel loneliness, you are feeding the opposite. Imagination only fulfills its role when it is lived with total surrender, when mind and heart unite in the same vibration of certainty. Therefore, train your imagination as an artist trains their eye. Create within yourself what you wish to see outside. Make this a daily habit. Close your eyes and enter the desired scene until it feels natural, until the world around you seems like an extension of this inner vision. The key is not in force, but in gentleness. The more relaxed you are, the more deeply the image penetrates the unconscious. Effort blocks the flow. Faith releases it. When the image is clear and the feeling true, let go. Let the creative power act on its own. You don't need to push the river, just flow with it. Conscious imagination is the language of God within you, the means by which the invisible speaks to matter. And when you use it wisely, you realize there is no difference between imagining and creating, for imagining is the very act of creation in its purest form. Persistence is the fire that transforms the seed into fruit. Many understand the law, imagine what they desire, but fail because they give up before the creation is complete. The unconscious responds to constancy, not to haste. It needs a sustained vibration, a feeling repeated until it becomes natural. When you imagine something and then observe the world, looking for signs, doubting, analyzing if it is working, you leave the creative state and return to the old one. It's like planting a seed and every day digging up the soil to see if it has already sprouted. Thus, nothing flourishes. Persistence is faith in motion. It is remaining in the assumed state, even when everything seems to contradict it. It is saying internally, I already am, even in the face of absence. This steadfastness is not blind stubbornness, but the recognition that visible reality is always the delayed reflection of the invisible. When you feel something deeply and sustain that feeling day after day, without letting your senses waver, you are engraving a new program into the unconscious, and sooner or later, the world will bend to it. The conscious mind is unstable. It changes moods, beliefs, expectations. The unconscious, however, is the fixed, silent power that creates from what is repeated with emotion. Therefore, the secret lies in nurturing the new idea with patience and discipline until it replaces the old pattern. All true transformation first happens through invisible persistence before revealing itself in visible form. When the world shows you the opposite of what you desire, that will be the moment to prove your faith. The test never comes at the beginning. It comes when you are about to win. That's when the old state tries to pull you back, making it seem like nothing has changed. But if you remain steadfast, feeling the inner reality as fact, you will see the impossible dissolve. What many call a miracle is merely the result of unwavering persistence in an inner state. The best time to consolidate this power is when falling asleep. At that moment, between the conscious and the unconscious, the mind is malleable and receptive. Relive the desired scene as if it were already real every night, with serenity and certainty. Do not seek forced intensity, seek naturalness. Quiet repetition is more powerful than momentary euphoria. Over time, the feeling will become so familiar that it will cease to feel like an exercise. At that moment, you will know that the unconscious has accepted the new reality. And then, without warning, it will begin to manifest. Circumstances will change, people will appear, doors will open, and everything will seem like a coincidence, but it won't be. It will merely be the silent power of persistence, making the invisible become flesh before your eyes. The man who seeks to control the how is the one who has not yet understood the nature of the power that dwells within him. The how belongs to the domain of the rational mind, the small self that believes it needs to push the universe for something to happen. But the true creator acts in silence, confident that the invisible intelligence that shapes the cosmos is always moving in his favor. The unconscious is that intelligence, limitless, precise, perfect. It does not need your help, only your faith. When you try to discover how your desire will be realized, you interrupt the natural flow of creation. The act of controlling is, in truth, a disguised form of doubt. And where there is doubt, power fragments. To abandon the how is to abandon fear. It is to surrender to the certainty that the cause has already been established, and therefore, the effect is inevitable. When you plant a seed in the earth, you do not sit at the edge of the field demanding to see the process. You trust the life hidden beneath the soil. So it is with desire. Once felt as real, it has already begun to germinate in the depths of the unconscious. Anxiety in observing results is the gesture of one who doubts the seed. But the one who knows simply rests, not in inertia, but in trust. The conscious mind wants to plan paths, create strategies, predict reactions. The unconscious, however, is the invisible architect that moves circumstances, synchronizes events, and connects people in ways your reason could never imagine. It chooses the most natural and perfect means to realize what has been decreed within you. Sometimes this requires silence, other times a sudden inspiration makes you act at the right moment. But in both cases, it is the same power at work. To free yourself from the how is to live in active surrender. It is to continue imagining and feeling the desired outcome with gratitude, knowing that the path between the invisible and the visible does not belong to you. This surrender is not passivity. It is obedience to the law. Because when man tries to impose the how, he puts himself in the place of divine wisdom itself and ends up limiting what could be limitless. The one who trusts, on the contrary, lives in a state of calm, and calm is the signature of one who already knows they have won. The world transforms with perfection when man abandons the need to control. Everything that seemed impossible begins to align, because the creative power moves without resistance. It is like the tide that, silently and constantly, shapes stone over time. Thus the unconscious works, without haste, without error, without failure. The how is the burden of those who doubt. Surrender is the freedom of those who have already understood. When you leave the how to God within you, the impossible becomes inevitable. Living in conformity with the new state is the point at which creation becomes complete. Many understand the law, imagine the desire fulfilled, feel for an instant the vibration of achievement, but soon return to acting, thinking, and speaking as before. That is when the power dissipates. The unconscious needs coherence. It creates according to the predominant state, not a fleeting desire. Therefore, living in conformity is becoming the desire incarnate, to think like it, react like it, exist like it. The external world does not change first. It is you who changes. The world merely reflects the inner transformation. The man who understands this no longer observes appearances as the final reality. He may be surrounded by limitations and still maintain the feeling of fullness. He may be in the midst of scarcity and continue to feel prosperous, because he no longer lives by circumstances, but by the assumed state. The new state is the new name you give to yourself. And when this name is accepted by the unconscious, all of creation responds. I am is the formula of existence. Everything that follows these words becomes flesh. To live the new state, inner discipline is required. Every contrary thought is an invitation to return to the old. Every conversation of doubt is an attempt to erase the new image. Therefore, keep silent about what you are creating. Speak little, observe more. Words have power, but silent feelings shape destiny with even greater force. When you catch yourself reverting to the old pattern, lamenting, comparing, fearing, remember this is merely a shadow of what you were, not what you are. Choose again. Feel the new. Sustain it. The true creator needs to prove nothing. He simply lives in the state of the already realized. Faith makes it natural, and naturalness is the sign that the unconscious has accepted the command. When the new state becomes so familiar that it no longer seems like imagination, it is ready to emerge as fact. People around you will begin to react differently. Opportunities will arise unexpectedly, and the world obediently will confirm what you have sustained in silence. This is living in conformity, not waiting to see, but seeing because you decided to feel. Not seeking signs, but being the sign. The power is not in affirming, but in assuming. When you live from the new state, the universe recognizes the vibration of certainty and organizes everything to maintain the coherence of this new identity. That is why the world changes when you change, because it has no will of its own. It merely reflects what you have decided to be. And the day you live as if it already were, the entire world will have no choice but to prove that it is. Now you understand the mystery the ancients called creation. Everything you see is merely the shadow cast by what you carry within. The common man lives as a prisoner of appearances, reacting to the world he himself created, believing himself to be a victim of luck or fate. But the one who awakens to the law discovers that nothing happens by chance, that every event, every face, every detail of life is merely the exact reflection of the state he silently sustained. When you understand this, you stop fighting against effects and return to acting upon the cause. And the cause is always within. It is useless to beg for external changes, to plead for signs, or to try to convince the world. The power that moves mountains lies in the feeling you harbor now, at this instant. Everything that is assumed with faith and constancy in the invisible manifests, because the universe has no other choice but to obey the vibrational command of being. What we call a miracle is merely reality's perfect obedience to what has been decreed internally. Therefore, from today onwards, silence the noise of doubt. Do not worry about how or when or by whom. Abandon the despair of one who pleads and assume the serenity of one who already possesses. Live from the end. Speak as one who has already achieved. Walk as one who has already arrived. Feel as one who already is. With every breath, silently reaffirm, I am what I have decided to be. And the world, docile as clay in the potter's hands, will mold itself to the form of this conviction. From this moment on, no longer ask for signs. Command in silence. Feel the truth of your desire, as if it were an accomplished fact. And let the power of the unconscious do the rest. It does not fail, does not forget, does not get confused. It is the very expression of God within you, and everything you accept as true within you, the universe will confirm outside of you. Remember, everything already is, and it is within. The exterior is merely the echo of your belief. So choose now what you wish to hear back. Feel it, live it, make it real in your inner world, and observe the miracle happen effortlessly, because the miracle is nothing more than the natural manifestation of an inner state sustained with faith. This is the power, this is the law, and you are its creator. Stop. Before looking for signs, make a simple adjustment. Switch places with the author of your story. You have been living as a character, reacting to what the world says. Today, sit in the director's chair. The scene around you is not a courtroom, it's a film set. The camera records what your state commands, nothing more than that. If you understand this now, anxiety loses its job, fear resigns, and the past stops being your resume. What's visible always arrives late. What arrives first is the intimate decree, made without applause, without an audience, without justifications. Don't seek promises, assume a position. The law doesn't negotiate with fragile assumptions. It obeys established convictions. Convince yourself of the following. Life doesn't dialogue with what you ask for. It replicates what you are in secret. The self you wear inside is the mold of matter. Now try a silent gesture. Release your body, recede from the need to prove, and slide into the sober sensation of already possessing what you desire. Don't imagine like someone begging. Remember like someone returning home. When the state ignites, everything in the body changes tone. Breathing slows, the mind stops measuring distance, the heart recognizes familiar territory. You don't need to force grand images. You need to sustain a simple certainty. That's where the single word carries the weight of a royal seal. It doesn't create the blessing, it closes the vault. It doesn't convince the universe, it informs that the matter is concluded. And that's why it shouldn't be displayed, opined on, debated. Secret here isn't superstition, it's governance. The seed doesn't explain itself while sprouting. You don't account for the invisible to others' curiosity. You command in silence and let the world slowly catch up to what is already consummated within you. Enter the state as one crosses an internal border, and when the sensation of possession is alive, conclude. Afterward, walk lightly. Do what someone who has already received would do. Small acts, zero theatricality. The 3D world is stubborn, but it is obedient. Sooner or later, it bends. And when someone asks, what did you do, you will know. It was done in the only place where everything begins and ends, within. My first advice is simple and relentless. Assume before you see. The world doesn't pay in advance. It settles after you close the internal contract, and this contract is called state. Begin by sighing deeply, letting your body fall into a lucid serenity, like someone dropping the weapon of control. Close your eyes and ask for nothing. Recall. Recall the after as now. The touch of what you desire is not a distant fantasy. It is a memory brought from the future to the present. Mentally touch the object as one recognizes an old friend. Feel the texture, the weight, the temperature. Hear the ambient sound of a life already resolved. Confident steps, opening doors, conversations that already address you by your new name. Allow your breath to find the rhythm of someone who has arrived. You are not creating with effort. You are donning an identity that already belongs to you. Imagination isn't theater, it's a registry office. The act of assuming registers the fact in the invisible, and the invisible is always the matrix of the visible. If the mind insists on asking when, respond with composure. That is irrelevant for someone who has already arrived. The clock on the outside works for those who have settled within. Don't try to push the scene, sustain it. Sustaining is the muscle of faith. Let a small detail anchor the feeling. The message read on the phone, the key turning the smell of the place, the light coming through the window of the new place, the approved email. The murmur of gratitude born effortlessly. Return to this detail several times a day, not to implore but to remember. Remembering is signing again. With each felt remembrance, the old state loses blood. The new state, nourished, begins to command behavior. You will speak less of problems, choose sober words, make those small gestures that align with someone who already possesses. This is not pretense, it is coherence. Avoid the common mistake of measuring progress by external signs. A sign doesn't create a state creates a sign. If the world offers you a contradiction, receive it as a delayed echo of an identity you have already abandoned. Don't get irritated by the slowness of the 3D world. Respect its slow pace. True change doesn't need an announcement, it needs continuity. Therefore, before sleeping, return to the short scene that proves the achievement. 2 or 3 images are enough. Sleep within them like someone closing a book already read. Sleep is the gatekeeper of the subconscious. Give it the correct script. And when the sensation is fully ignited, serene, familiar, inevitable, conclude the matter within with a silent decision. No promises, no "I hope so." Give thanks without words and rise like someone who has sealed a contract. The next day should find you coherent, choosing, responding, moving as one who already is. If you slip and wear the old self for a few minutes, don't dramatize, retreat, breathe, reassume. The trump card is not never falling, it is reassuming quickly. In a short time, you will notice that the old landscape no longer recognizes you and the new one begins to bend. This is how the invisible governs, through sustained internal posture, not by applied external force. Assume before you see, and seeing will come as an obedient employee of what you have decided to be. My second advice is to seal the decree within with a single word that concludes the matter. Creation doesn't answer anxious requests, it responds to consummated decisions. When the sensation of possession is alive, not agitated euphoria, but the calm of one who recognizes familiar territory, pronounce in silence the word that closes the vault: done. It's not "it will happen," it's not "who knows," it's not "I hope so." It's done. This word isn't magic in itself, it's the signature of the state. Spoken outside the state, it's noise. Spoken from within, it's law. Therefore, don't repeat it in despair. Don't display it aloud to convince anyone. Once spoken with conviction, be silent. Silence is the frame of authority. Understand the mechanism. While you analyze, you delay. While you conclude, you release. The mind that begs for guarantees creates delays. The mind that decrees clears the way. Done is the period that replaces question marks. After the contract is signed, you don't rewrite clauses every day. You fulfill your part and let the other side fulfill theirs. It works the same here. You've sealed it, so live coherently. Don't reopen the process out of curiosity or fear. Curiosity asks, will it be? Fear whispers, what if it's not? Both ask the world for proof as if the world were the cause. Remember, the world is the effect. If doubt arises, don't argue with it. Return for a few moments to the feeling of the assumed state and rest. Rest is faith in action. Protect the decree from chatter. Explaining it to those who don't inhabit your state is inviting opinion to interfere in what is not their concern. Secret here isn't superstition, it's spiritual hygiene. The seed sprouts in the dark. You don't unearth it every day to see if it's working. Let the spoken word do its work underground. Go about your day with simple gestures, consistent with someone who has already received. Organize documents, study what a self in that position would know. Treat people from the dignity that this state naturally evokes. No theatricality. True creation makes no noise, it dictates direction. There will be moments when the old scenery tries to poke you with small tests, a delayed email, a skeptical comment, a bill that arrives. Observe without trembling. This is just the tale of the old identity's comet passing by. You don't need to respond with nervousness, respond with governance. An internal "it is consummated" is enough to prevent you from dropping emotionally. If useful, anchor yourself in a small ritual of coherence. Breathe 3 times slowly, Roll your shoulders. Look at your surroundings as someone who already belongs, and proceed. The body reads commands from the state. Help it with posture. Remember that done is not a spell to manipulate the outside. It is a verdict that crystallizes the inside. What comes next is just the 3D world catching up to the decree. If at any moment you feel you slipped and reopened the case with complaints, don't blame yourself. Close it again. Return to the state, replace the seal, and continue. Mastery is not in never doubting, but in concluding quickly. An entire life changes when you learn to finish matters within. When it is done, it's over. The kingdom understands the order, and matter, slow yet obedient, begins to align. My third advice is to guard your emotion, not the calendar. External time is a slow messenger. What dictates the speed of events is the quality of the state you sustain within. Many fail not because they chose their desire poorly, but because they monitor deadlines like inspectors and abandon the emotional climate that would make the desire flourish. You don't manage dates, you govern internal atmospheres. If your emotion is of someone who has already received, the minutes cooperate. If your emotion is of someone who fears losing, the days drag on. Stop watching the clock and start watching the tone of your being. How is this done in practice? First, establish a return point, a simple, concrete detail that reactivates the sensation of possession, the vibration of your phone with an approved message, the click of a key, the smell of a new environment, the embrace of someone celebrating with you. When you notice anxiety, bring the detail back, breathe slowly, and let your body adopt the posture of one who has arrived. Relaxed shoulders, calm gaze, economical movements. The body is the fastest servant of the state. If you position it, the mind receives the message. Next, conduct your small daily acts from this atmosphere. Someone who has already received organizes papers without drama, responds to messages with sobriety, chooses words without begging for validation. It's not staging, it's intimate coherence. If hours pass and nothing happens, remember, what happens is always an invisible changing of the guard before it becomes a scene. The old mind will try to negotiate with you. 3 days left, nothing has changed. Respond internally. The external deadline is irrelevant for someone who is already there. Return to the return point, replace the correct emotion, and continue. The correct state is silent. It doesn't need fireworks to feel certainty. True faith isn't noisy, it's stable. Stability is the music that life hears. Avoid the traps of compulsive monitoring. Checking email every 5 minutes, recalculating figures in circles, opening conversations to see if it will happen. All this communicates to the subconscious that you still doubt. Exchange the addiction of measuring for the habit of remaining. Remain in the tone. If necessary, establish ritual pauses throughout the day. 3 deep breaths, eyes closed for 10 seconds, a return to the anchor detail, and a brief phrase that seals the mood. It is consummated. Don't prolong it. Go out and live. The garden doesn't grow faster because you observe it. It grows because you water it and leave it in peace. When a test arises, a delay, a no, a comment of scorn, understand it as an old echo, not a new decree. The 3D world has inertia. Your task is not to fight with echoes, but to maintain the tone that cancels the reverberation. Say inwardly, "You arrived late," and proceed doing what someone who already belongs to the desired reality would do. With each repetition of this posture, your nervous system learns a new normal. And when the body learns, the world learns. If you slip, don't dramatize. The grace of mastery lies in the swiftness of return, not in the fantasy of perfection. Return to the anchor point, restore the mood, and continue. Sooner or later, and usually sooner than you suppose when you stop watching the clock, the facts arrive like punctual employees of a king who has already given the order. Guard your emotion. The calendar is merely the employee. The king is your state. My fourth advice is to fast from appearances. What you call reality are delayed reports from the state you no longer inhabit. Reports, notifications, glances, and numbers smell of yesterday. They are echoes of the old self. If you consume these appearances as food, your faith will starve. Fasting from appearances is not denying bills, commitments, or facts. It is denying them the right to define your state. You pay what you need to pay, respond to what you need to respond to, but you don't grant them a commanding voice. The command is yours, and the source of the command is the invisible. Examine your day like someone filtering the soul's diet. What enters through your eyes and ears? Does it feed or weaken the state? Reduce exposure to the despair embedded in headlines, predictions, and comparisons. Bad news is propaganda for the old self. You are not obligated to watch this campaign. When a no arises, don't waste energy defending against it. Retreat for an instant and respond with governance. You arrived late. Afterward, return to the anchor detail of possession and allow your body to adopt the posture of the new self. The body is a faithful servant. Straighten your shoulders, relax your jaw, make your movements economical. One who already belongs doesn't beg, they occupy. From this internal occupation, execute the next obvious simple step that maintains coherence with your decision. The 3D world measures your conviction by its continuity, not by its volume. Continue. There is a practice that seals this fast: nightly review. Before sleeping, close your eyes and rewrite the day as it should have been for a self who already possesses what they desire. It's not childish fantasy, it's education of the subconscious. Replace the tense conversation with a sober one. Exchange the hasty response for a response from one who reigns. See the message that didn't come as having arrived. Feel the meeting that didn't occur as having concluded gracefully. 2 or 3 scenes are enough. Sleep is the bridge through which the decree passes without resistance. You deliver the new version to the mind's gatekeeper, and he, diligently, forwards it to the floor below, where the law takes hold. Also, practice selective attention during the day. It's not about closing your eyes to the world, but about directing them. What you look at grows. If you need to read a difficult report, read it, but don't chew on the fear that usually comes with it. Read as one who governs, not as one who defends. Faced with a line, a slow system, a delay, protect your state with inner silence. The old self tries to comment, to prove, to complain, and each comment is a donation of authority to what no longer has the right to govern. Economize external words to conserve internal power. When someone ironizes your path, smile politely and don't evangelize your decree. Secret here is spiritual hygiene. The seed doesn't sprout when you expose it to the raw sun of curiosity. Maturity knows when to be silent. You owe no explanations for what was decided in the sanctuary of your heart. Walk, do your part, maintain the tone. Fasting from appearances is ceasing to feed what you no longer are. In a short time, like someone changing seasons without warning, you will realize that the news from outside has begun to speak the language of the self you sustain within. It's always like this. Matter is slow, but obedient. You don't fight with shadows, you change the bulb. My 5th advice is to practice fruitful silence. There is a type of silence that is escape and cowardice. This is not it. Fruitful silence is governance. It's when you decide that what has been decreed within will not be exposed to the market of opinions. Each time you explain too much, you dilute the anointing of the decree. The seed needs darkness and depth to germinate. The same applies to your creations. Speak less, preserve more. Not out of fear of envy or bad luck, but out of respect for the mechanics of the invisible. What is being born within you doesn't need applause, it needs nourishment. And the nourishment of the invisible is confident stillness. Practice 3 forms of silence. First, the silence of the tongue. Avoid chatter about desires, plans, goals, especially with those who do not inhabit your state. The world loves to measure what it doesn't conceive, and, without realizing it, you open the door to borrowed doubts. Say less, say late, or don't say at all. Let the evidence speak for you when it's time. Second, the silence of the mind. When your head starts to light up with what-if spotlights, don't debate with the thoughts. Empty them with presence. Bring your body to the now. Long breath, relaxed shoulders, gentle gaze. Slide back into the sensation of already possessing. The noisy mind falls silent when it realizes the throne is occupied. Third, the silence of the heart. Don't feed internal conversations of complaint, comparison, or self-pity. They are thieves of authority. If an old wound wants to speak, bless it and return it to the past. A heart at peace is the greenhouse where the new flourishes. Fruitful silence is not inertia. It is controlled power. You work, study, respond, act, but you don't display the backstage. One who reigns doesn't need to prove they reign. They merely sign and proceed. And that is why the single word, when spoken in the correct state, demands silence afterward. Done. And silence. Not because speaking breaks the magic, but because speaking shifts the focus. You leave the sanctuary and go to the public square. In the square, doubt sells pamphlets. In the sanctuary, certainty writes laws. Choose the enclosure. Each day, find minutes for a brief retreat. Turn off noises, close your eyes, restore the anchor scene, feel the possession, and listen to the internal sound of one who has already arrived. This sound has no words, but it shapes matter. If someone pressures for explanations, smile politely and respond, "In due time, you will know." It's not arrogance, it's spiritual hygiene. Some things are lost when they become conversation. Protect what you love while it is vulnerable. When it matures, no one can deny the fruit. And even when the fruits appear, maintain sobriety. Celebrate within, give thanks intimately, and continue. Silence is not absence of voice, it is presence of governance. It is what prevents you from negotiating your decree for emotional payoff, approval, curiosity, validation. If you slip and talk too much, don't condemn yourself. Retreat, close the internal windows, reassume the state, and replace the seal. Learn from the excess and return to precision. Mastery is continuous adjustment. In a short time, you will notice that your energy is not wasted on justifications. You walk lightly, speak little, decide clearly. And the world, slow yet obedient, begins to reflect this new economy of power. Fruitful silence is the royal guard of your inner castle. With it, what you decided in secret flourishes in public, without noise, but with authority. So rise within. You have seen the map. Assume before you see, seal with a single word, guard your emotion and not the calendar, fast from appearances, and protect everything with fruitful silence. Now, turn this into a habit. Life doesn't reward the curious, it rewards governors. Enter the state as one who crosses an intimate border and does not return. When the sensation of possession is ignited, conclude, done. Afterward, walk with the sobriety of someone who has already received. You don't need to announce anything. You need to inhabit what you decided to be. Stop asking the world to change for you. The world is the mirror, not the sculptor. Don't beg for signs. Don't negotiate with shadows. Don't explain your decrees to those who live outside your sanctuary. Your task is one: to command in silence and certainty that reality align with the state you have chosen. If the old scenery appears with its echoes, respond internally. You arrived late. Return to the anchor detail, reassume the tone, continue. Every minute you remain in the new state educates your body, and an educated body draws forth facts. Don't confuse peace with passivity. Peace is the energy of one who has concluded the matter within. Work, study, organize, move with precision, not to make it happen, but because that's how one who already is acts. When weariness comes, breathe, recall, and seal again. Mastery is not absence of tests, it is speed of return to the throne. And on the throne, one rule prevails above all: the invisible shapes the visible. Take with you the memory of what is eternal. Everything already is, and it is within. The decree you write in silence today will be the headline the world reads tomorrow. Assume, seal, remain. Don't implore, govern. When the king speaks, the kingdom moves. Speak within, with the single word that concludes the matter, and keep it in your heart. Done.